Will murder charges be added to the Sushant Singh Rajput death probe? The CBI says it is still mulling the possibility of adding Section 302 to the FIR. 45 days on, the CBI claims it is still probing the case and will summon Siddharth Patani this week for questioning once again. He's already been questioned multiple times. Mr. Patani was one of the 4 people present in the house when Sushant Singh Rajput was found dead on the 14th of June. Now, this is why the CBI is not ruling out murder. There are 4 big points on why the CBI is not ruling out murder. The first is the ligature mark on Sushant Singh Rajput's neck. It was not consistent with suicide. If SSR had actually hanged himself, then the ligature mark should have been higher up. Instead, this ligature mark was on the lower side of the neck, which is suggesting strangulation, according to forensic experts. Now, forensic reports are also saying there's no sign of poisoning, but the possibility of homicide cannot be ruled out. Let me go straight across to Zeba Warasi, who is joining us live on the story from Mumbai. Zeba, is the CBI fairly convinced that this could be murder, or are they still mulling whether they have enough evidence to put a murder charge in the FIR?
Well, CBI sources are telling us that they are mulling putting a murder charge into the investigation. It's not something that they've completely decided on. They are in the process of gathering evidence. Remember, Shreya, a team of CBI has already reached Mumbai once again to continue the investigation after AIM's report has been submitted to them. So it is one of the angles that they're probing, and of course CBI has to now come up on record and state whether indeed they're converting the abetting to suicide case to the murder charge, whether they have enough evidence to convert it into a murder case, which has been the family's demand consistently. But at that stage, it is certainly one of the angles of the investigation. CBI says it is investigating it thoroughly from all possible angles.
All right, Zeba, do stay on with us. This is the other side of the probe that is developing as the NCB has stepped up its investigation in the Bollywood drug nexus case. The role of bureaucrats, political leaders and 3 top stars are now under the NCB scanner. In fact, sources are claiming that the NCB has found evidence against 3 male stars and they could be summoned soon. The mastermind of the drugs racket is an actor, and he was someone who was also a supermodel in the past, some 20 years ago is what we are being told. He has been reportedly named by peddlers who've been arrested by the NCB. Now, according to NCB sources, the hunt for an African citizen named David, who is the biggest supplier of drugs in Bollywood, is still underway. Let me go across to Shilpa Ratnam, who's joining us on the story. Shilpa, 3 big male stars, out of which one was a former supermodel, and I can only think of one name. Does the NCB have enough evidence to call them in for questioning? And if that's the case, by when will we see these 3 stars being paraded at the NCB office?
Well, the director of the NCB, KPS Malhotra, has said he cannot comment on this until they are actually summoned, and only once they are summoned, can anything be said at all. So they are currently being very tight-lipped about it. What we do know for sure is currently they're corroborating testimonies. They are correlating phone data along with the statements of peddlers that are under their custody. There are about 18 to 19 people who have already been arrested in this case, and all their testimonies are being put together, and some names have emerged out of those testimonies. And it's also true that DG Rakesh Asthana has given a free hand to the NCB to go after the big fish. And also important is the announcement coming in from NCB today that independent of what the CBI and the ED find, they will continue with their probe. That even if the findings are varied, or if their probe stops, the NCB has made it clear that it's doing an independent probe currently, and that they are very determined to see it to its end. So the net is definitely widening, but the NCB being very tight-lipped about who these possible stars could be.
All right, Shilpa, we'll leave it there for the moment. But what sources are telling us is that the NCB could be summoning these 3 big stars, top stars from Bollywood. in connection with the drug probe that is currently underway. Let me go straight across to our guests who are joining us this evening. Swapnil Kothari is a senior lawyer. He is with us. Kulbir Krishan is a former IPS officer. He's tracking the story closely. He is with us as well. And AKashdeep is a filmmaker. He'll be joining us in just a bit. Swapnil Kothari, before I go to the drug charges and the fact that there are 3 big stars who could be summoned, I want to ask you what you make of murder charges being added to the Sushant Singh Rajput FIR. I mean, the fact is that we have an All India Institute of Medical Sciences report which is saying nothing much. It was supposed to be conclusive, but it still hasn't told us whether this was murder, whether this was a suicide. As far as the CBI itself is concerned, it's been probing the case for 45 days and it is yet to convert its FIR from abetment to suicide to murder. It obviously means in the last 45 days they don't have any evidence to suggest that this could be murder.
Shreya, what CBI could have done is that they embarked on this investigation after 60 days of Mumbai police so-called shambolic investigation. Thereafter, the CBI must have collected evidence to the effect they must have explored all the angles. I'm sure they would have explored the murder angle much before even this has come out into the open. Then they would have said that, okay, I need the AIMS report to that effect to some sort so that it helps me a little bit in that sense. They had a meeting some 3-4 days ago in Delhi, 2.5 hours. They smashed it, thrashed it out with each other. And they also said there was a statement to the effect that both our findings sort of marry each other or coincide with each other. Now, the AIMS being a very professional body, it has not got the evidence, the way it would have got had it stepped into the shoes just one day immediately after the death. Full viscera, all of the things that need to be there, proper post-mortem, etc. So in that sense, then they would have definitely said, okay, one way or the other, this is homicide or this is suicide. But what they have done now is they have said that homicide cannot be ruled out, being a professional body, not appealing to the public sentiment, but at the same time, giving its professional opinion that, look, by the way, the ligature marks are there, the body was hanging. We are coming to the conclusion that a homicide cannot be ruled out. So CBI says, okay, now they're going to land back in Mumbai. Or, they already have, from what I have known from the media reports, that they have Dipesh and Siddharth Pithani and Neeraj, all of them under the scanner. So they're going to call these people back who were there in the last few hours around Sushant's death and then embark on that investigation or call them again in. And then we should start seeing the charge being slowly converted to murder from 306 to 302. That much I can tell you, because I'm sure CBI has got enough evidence, not just the medical report, but even surrounding circumstances. The medical report by itself is not conclusive.
Mr. Kulbir Krishan,
court of law.
Okay, Mr. Kulbir Krishan, which means if the CBI thinks that this could be murder and if they could, apply Section 302 to the charge as well, does it mean that Riya Chakrabarti and her brother will go scot-free? I ask you this question because if there is murder, the person who has murdered Sushant Singh Rajput would have been present in the house when the murder happened. Now, there were exactly 4 people in that house. There was Siddharth Pithani, there were 2 cooks, and there was 1 housekeeper. There was no Riya Chakrabarti, there was no Riya Chakrabarti's brother. So, does it mean that if murder charges are being applied in the case, Riya Chakrabarti and, her brother can go scot-free?
No, it doesn't mean that at all. The suspects are not just these 4 people who were present when the body was discovered. First of all, you have to know when the murder occurred. Did it occur at that time on 14th afternoon or earlier, etc.? If you notice, even the Cooper Hospital has refused to give the time of death, which is a very crucial thing. So what happens is that, first of all, who are the actual murderers? Just in theory, they could be some hired killers. But even if they are hired killers, the question is who hired them, what was the sequence, etc.
But Mr. Krishan, till a day ago, like till a day before Sushant Singh Rajput's death, his sister Meetu was present in the house.
Very true.
You think she'd allow murderers to come in and murder her brother?
No, she was there till the 12th. And 13th there was nobody, and 14th his body was found. So the gap is between 12th and 14th. Those 36 hours or whatever they are there. And what happens is that we cannot go by speculation. What we have to go is by hard evidence and facts. Like the CBI may well know that it is murder, but till it gets evidence to the to prove it.
But here's
it's not
the thing.
It's not to.
But here's the thing. If the CBI says, AKashdeep, come in here. If the CBI says, and this is what the CBI is saying, that Siddharth Patani is not a suspect right now. We are looking at him as a witness. If he's not, if he's...
Please let me conclude quickly.
Achha,
What I'm trying, if you remember the Sheena Bora case, there also initially it was dismissed as a missing person case and things like that. Later on, a witness came and said that I took part in the murder and he became an approver. So what happens in the future is yet to be seen. But what you cannot rule out anything at the moment. You have to keep all options open and go systematically and try to find out and eliminate one.
It's a good point to make. It's a good point to make, Mr. Krishan. It's a very good point to make. AKashdeep, let me come to you with this. The fact is the CBI is not looking at Siddharth Patani as a suspect. They're looking at him as a witness, someone who can give information. Now, if Sushant Singh Rajput was murdered, the murderers would have come in via some place. Given the fact that he stayed in a high-profile society, there'd be CCTV cameras all around. I'm assuming by now the CBI has been probing the case for the last 45 days. They have got all CCTV camera footage, etc. They've analyzed all of that. If till now, after 45 days of doing all of this, they still have not converted the FIR from abetment to suicide to murder, there must be some reason behind it.
Shreya, I definitely feel that this case, the way it's going, is not as simple as we all thought. That, once the CBI comes in and certain negligence that was being attributed to the Mumbai police will be taken care of. And of course, we understand that there is a lot of talk that a lot of evidence must have been destroyed. But yes, you are right. The 4 people inside the house could not have been drugged or fast asleep when people must have come from outside to attempt to kill Sushant Singh Rajput. So these people being witnesses rather than, as of now, the needle of suspicion pointing to them, at least in abetment, to allow that person, or I'm just trying to create a situation where they were threatened that shut up, stand in one corner, don't move. Fine. Now then they should have told the police. Because Patani, how can the needle of suspicion go away from him? He said nothing after 15 days, 1 month, 2 months of Bombay, nothing. Once he went to the CBI, he started singing that yes, some people came. He named those people who came to erase the hard disk. So he definitely knew a lot more than he was portraying then. And he probably could know a lot more than he's portrayed, that he's conveyed till now. And I don't know. You see, the CBI is not giving regular updates, which is understandable. Let them do their work silently. But maybe he has told them a lot more. Maybe they know. Maybe they're secretly doing their findings. See, because what happens is, if I tell you that, oh, I'm telling you Sushant was murdered, it's not enough to put a case. Once I go into the witness box, the opposition lawyers will grill me, and I need far more evidence to collect before I can go and present a case. I can say, raise any objection. I can say, no, I'm his sister. He was killed, X, Y, Z. How do you prove it? By just the statement of the woman? You will then, that's why I think CBI will need to collect a lot more corroborative evidence. And I'm sure the legal luminaries on the platform will be able to explain this further. I certainly feel, if I were one who's watching this case, who's been on debates every day, and that's why I have first-hand opinion and information about what everyone thinks, I don't think the needle of suspicion is out of Patani as yet.
All right. But then why Riya? I want to ask you this. Then why Riya Chakrabarti? Sushant Singh Rajput's father accused her of poisoning Sushant Singh Rajput. That charge has fallen flat because the AIMS report is saying that he was not poisoned.
Yes.
Now, the CBI is saying we'll add section 302. All right, if you add section 302, it means he was murdered. Now, he was not murdered by poisoning, which means he was strangulated, possibly. If he was strangulated, somebody has to be physically present there to strangulate him. Mr. Kothari, it certainly wasn't Riya Chakrabarti or her brother who are currently in jail. Suspect number 1. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Absolutely, and that is where I always ask that can I continue, please?
Ek karke. AKashdeep, I'll come to you in just a bit. Let Mr. Kothari have a say. I'll come to you after that. Yes, Mr. Kothari.
Sure. Swapnil is more qualified to speak on this. My friend Swapnil, over to you.
So, And now, as far as Shreya's question is concerned, that whether Ria or Shovik were not there to be physically present. Now, as my previous panelist, the IPS officer pointed out, Shreya, that I do not have to be physically in that place. I could have been there 6 days ago earlier, and I could have said that, look, Sushant is going to be alone on this day, and this is what is going to be, and you can go in, and these are the 4 people. They're all people who have been employed by me, and they have been employed by me. I'm not saying.
भूल गए अंदर से कमरा लॉक था. भूल गए आप कमरा अंदर से लॉक था. A keymaker had to be called. You forgot the sequence of events.
सुनिए, let me finish. Terrace से लोग आए थे. That is the theory, because CBI was there 3 times on the terrace of the building to find out whether there was any access to Sushant's house, and there is an access to Sushant's house from the terrace itself. Sushant used to go up a lot to meditate there also. Now, anyway, that apart, I don't want to get into that. That the CBI will come out and tell you all the facts once it concludes in a certain manner. What I'm trying to say is that I am not saying that Ria is involved, but I am not saying either that she is not involved, because in some form or the other, if she facilitated the entry of people, or if she kept mum on that and did not tell Sushant also, or in any manner.
But she was not there. For the last 6 days, 7 days, she was not there. No, उसको तो घर से निकाल दिया था.
No. Listen. In any way facilitated. What I'm trying to say is, in any way, there are rumors that she was there with him on the 13th morning. Rather had attended a party with Sushant itself. There are rumors itself. So it's not that she was not there. She may have left on the 8th of June, but she was still there on the 13th of June with him for some time. Now, I'm not saying all those things. These are speculation. I'm not so sure about
Mr. Swapnil
it.
Kothari, I'm thankful you are saying these are speculation and rumors, because this case may 90% things have been speculation and rumor only.
I can give a phone call to someone, as my previous panelist pointed out and said that, look, this is the amount that I'll pay you. I'll hire the killers. So I'm the actual killer too. And at the same time, if I tell Siddharth Pithani and all these people, you guys keep your mouth shut, and after Sushant is dead, you will continue doing housework the way you were doing, cooking food, all that. That also is considered as accessory after the fact. So these are all people who are complicit in the murder. Now, to what extent Ria or Shovik are involved, we do not know. That is for CBI to come out and tell us.
But हर चीज का motive होता है ना. Motive क्या था? Anyhow, AKashdeep.
Agreed.
No. अभी AKashdeep. Yeah, AKashdeep. Go ahead.
With all the love, affection, and respect for my dear friend Swapnil, I mean, he's far more qualified than all of us legally. But as a common man, Swapnil, it seems a long shot to try and drag Ria into murder. The only option, like you said, is she has orchestrated from a distance, whether she's there or not, that I want him bumped off. I don't see that coming through, because for her, he was a hen that was laying Sushant was the hen that was laying golden eggs. Why would she want him bumped off, you see? If you're saying bumped off, then there's got to be a huge, larger investigation. Has it got to do with Disha Sanyal's party and what Disha told Sushant, and did what she tells Sushant involve Shovik, and that's why she didn't want Shovik to be in trouble? There are those theories also that when Sushant told her he's going to expose, Ria knew that Shovik's involved, so she warned him, took his papers and said, I'll tell the world that you're mental, and all that shit chat that came out earlier. So these things, if there was an iota of truth in them, or leads, let's not say truth of all leads, I think the most competent body in India would have found that by now. As of now, Ria very cleverly, before going to the CBI, laid the premise that Sushant used drugs. These house members went and confessed that they procured drugs for him through Shovik, through Ria, through other agents. So everything, including the NCB's final findings when Ria was sent in, was that these people procured drugs for Sushant. Now, our friend Sushant, whom we want justice for, suddenly finds himself labeled like that. He can't come down and say that I was a drug addict or not.
But
so they have probably used that alibi.
There has to be a motive.
Which is now, how are you going to crack this? And in this, if you say Ria is also the murderer, there is too much of justification that will have to be brought.
Therefore, Mr. Krishan, okay, go ahead. 20 seconds to you, Mr. Kothari, then I'll go to Mr. Krishan.
Yeah, Akash, 20 seconds. Shreya, thanks a lot. I am not saying that at all. I am only playing a technical point. Agar involved hai, so as an accessory before the fact or as an accessory after the fact, as what we call in law. I am not saying she's involved. She could all very well be totally out of the picture as far as the murder angle is concerned. Even abetment to suicide is going to be 100 times more difficult to prove. So I don't think that Ria will be involved in this case under 302 or 306 either.
That's the point I made. Yeah.
Mr.
I agree with you.
Mr. Krishan, but where is the motive? If Sushant was murdered, where is the motive? What is the motive? If Riya is the gold digger that everyone is making her out to be, then why would she want to harm Sushant Singh Rajput?
Correct.
He was her ATM, na?
He was so much in love with her, he would have called her back after 20 days. Jhagda to har relationship mein hota hai. Again, speculation.
Mr. Krishan, come in here. If, like the family claims that Riya treated, and Sushant's friends claim that Riya treated Sushant Singh Rajput as her ATM, she's such a gold digger. What is her motive? Why will she want him killed? Why will she want to murder him or get him murdered? Doesn't make sense at all.
He's the goose that eats the golden eggs.
Exactly.
That's what he's saying. Yeah, but see, what I'm trying to say is very simple. Everybody is innocent till proved guilty. Nobody is, but there are many suspects, and no suspect is going to be ruled out for the time being. What the CBI is going to do is, it has a lot of information, but that information is not evidence. It has to find proper evidence. The best evidence is scientific evidence. Now, unfortunately, most of the scientific evidence has become very murky in this case. Human evidence is not very reliable. First of all, if 4 of us see the same accident, we'll give slightly different accounts.
Correct.
Because we see it from our perspective.
Correct.
Secondly, humans can be bought over, then they can retract. So many things can happen. So each issue has to be checked and rechecked, and you have to find corroboration for it, and it takes time. And this case is like an onion, you peel away one layer, a second layer comes, the third layer comes, and at the center of it is Sushant, who's a young life who's been lost and who cannot come and defend himself and say that now everybody says, oh, he was the one who used to take drugs and we never took drugs. So come on, it's neither here nor there.
I'm fairly certain that it's heartbreaking. Mr. Krishan,
natural. Everyone will try to defend himself or herself.
Correct. And it is heartbreaking. I will say this for Sushant Singh Rajput's family right now. It must be heartbreaking for them to see all that is coming out right now. They are in any case saying that the drug probe has sidelined Sushant Singh Rajput's, death probe investigations, as it were. But here's the thing. You're saying the CBI will take time. Of course, the CBI will take time. But the problem is CBI's track record is very bad, sir. वो जिया खान का केस 8 साल से लटक रहा है. Same case, similar case.
This case is a little different. This case, the CBI's prestige is involved, and I'm sure they will.
No.
They
prestige
will try
is
their
involved
very best.
everywhere, sir. Don't say prestige is involved here. Every death matters.
Every death matters, and we should get.
Akash, I think you should not take that out of context. What he's trying to say is that this is a more publicly pronounced case in that sense. That there's a total media spotlight on this. There's a whole public whole nation. That's what he means.
8 years ago, there was a lot of media spotlight and public interest in the Jia Khan suicide case as well. It was on the insistence of her mother that the case was handed over to the CBI, exactly like the Sushant Singh Rajput case. Yet in the last 8 years, that Mr. Pancholi's son, Suraj Pancholi, also went to jail, walked out because the CBI had no evidence. That is exactly how this case is also going. That is my fear and worry, that this could drag on endlessly for the next 8 years.
Shreya,
I don't think Shreya is going to drag on for that longer time. I think the CBI will come out something within, I would say within the next few days, you should start seeing more a flurry of activity on the part of CBI, because the pressure will be tremendous. I'm sure Vikas Singh will wait for another 7 days. He'll say that, okay, CBI is not landing in Mumbai or is not calling certain people to Delhi. Then I'm definitely going to the Supreme Court, and there will be a wrap from the Supreme Court for sure.
10 seconds. AKashdeep, 10 seconds.
Yeah, no. I must also bring into context one finding here, that an agency called Kwan, instead of paying Sushant for hiring his services, whether it's acting, modeling, has received 10 crores. And 45 lakhs from that has gone into Riya's account. This is corroborated, right? This is the only money laundering corroboration that we've got till now. Those 10-15 crores has not come. Now, this is a very serious allegation. On what grounds does Riya get paid 40-50 lakhs from Kwan after receiving crores of rupees from Sushant? This is a huge question mark. This is a new development. So Riya is not that easily scot-free. She has a lot of answering to do. Unfortunately, right now she's in only on drug peddling or supplying or arranging or whatever. But
Whatever.
these things that have now come out, imagine out of everybody else, CBI calls up Kwan or NCB calls up Kwan and their official, means they are doing their homework damn well. And once they
Yes.
call Kwan, what all has come out, whether it's Jaya, whether
Yes.
it's Karishma, whether it's 10 crores, whether it's
Absolutely.
40 lakhs, this is massive information. So there is a lot of activity happening. Yes, they are not coming out every day and giving a report,
Okay.
an update, which is fair enough.
Okay.
The first thing these agencies are told is be discreet. Do not alert the person
Sir,
in
the
front of whom you have a
NCB and
doubt.
the CBI
So fair
have
enough.
been anything but discreet given the leaks they have been giving out. But thank you very
I
much.
don't know where those leaks come from. You people are more
No,
will be
we
able
know
to
where
tell
those
us.
leaks come from. We know where those leaks come from and we let it be. Thank you very much. I'm going to thank all three guests for a very informed, well-informed and civilized debate. Thank you very much indeed. With that, it's a wrap from me and Maria Shakil now joining you up next at 7 o'clock with Epicenter. Do stay with us.